Well, we'll go ahead and get started this evening. So welcome, and I'm Brandon Stevens. I'm going to be giving the workshop here for your lamp. And since we've got a small group here, that'll work out great. So any questions that you have, we can interact and answer any of those that you have. So we'll start out here and I'll share my screen with you here and we'll start with the presentation that I've got. Okay, so any of our tools that you might need tonight would be some small electronic flush cutters, maybe a snap blade knife or utility knife, some type of pliers, wire strippers, and safety glasses. And you've got a kit, it sounds like, so you're taken care of it. There are kits available. If you need extra parts, we can work with you on that. So the very first thing in our lamp, to start with our selection process, we need to pick the style of lamp cord. And the lamp cord, there's two different types. Actually, there's three different types of parallel cords or zip cords, but there's only two of them available for lamps. So SPT1 and SPT2 are the two lamp cords that are available. There is also an SPT3, and that looks like a lamp cord, but it's very heavy duty. And typically you would find that in landscape lighting, low voltage landscape lighting for outdoor use. So in your kit that you have, you're going to have SPT1, which is a little bit thinner insulation. It's a 30 thousandths inch for the insulation thickness, and it's a little bit easier to work with. Both types can be used, and they're meant for like light duty, not hard usage like an extension cord would be that you might use to plug in appliances or tools. We talked about the different thicknesses of applications on the insulation, so there is some other choices for you, but this will make it very easy for you for the thinner SPT1 cord. Also, the wire sizes are just like you learned in your previous 4-H projects, that we do have different wire sizes, and 18.2 is what was supplied in the kit for the lamp kit, and this gives us a 10 amp rating for that. And let's do some math on that to figure that out. So I've done the math for you here, and the voltage times amperage equals wattage, okay? So we know that we have 10 amps that this 18 gauge wire is rated for, and we can look that up. There's all kinds of tables that have that information for the wire sizes and the amperage rating. And we're using 120 volts, so we can power up to 1200 watts. That's a lot of power for light bulbs, and typically our lamps in our homes, we might have a 60 watt bulb. Every once in a while, somebody used to have a 100 watt bulb, and those were incandescent bulbs. Today, our lamps are all LED typically, or compact fluorescents, and they are much lower in wattage. Typically, a LED bulb is 7 to 10 watts. And so you can see we're way oversized on the cord, but that cord would be available for doing a much larger wattage lamp if you did need to get a higher wattage lamp. So that's good for us. And we'll talk about the cord length. So the cord length here is important for a lamp. It's important for us to have a long enough cord to reach the outlets in our house that we have. And if your cord's too short, we don't want the user to have to get an extension cord to extend it. And this may create an unsafe situation and cause maybe a fire or a trip hazard. And if the cord's too long, that is not desired either. Okay, so again, we would have a hazard there with that longer cord. Now, our outlets in our house, the National Electric Code requires or specifies that we have a maximum distance between outlets in our homes of 12 feet between each outlets in the walls of a room. Now that probably does not apply to special purpose rooms, maybe like a laundry room or a hallway. You may only have one hallway outlet or something like that, but in a family room, a bedroom, a living room, you would have a outlet every 12 feet minimum. And this allows you to put a cord anywhere in the room and probably only have to reach a maximum of 6 foot to reach an outlet for plugging in that lamp. And again, you don't want an excess cord that's going to create a fire hazard, so you don't want this long cord. But if you have an older home and you had a special place that you needed to put a lamp, and you need to put a little bit longer cord on, that would be acceptable. We would just recommend that you put a note on it so your judge at the fair would know what your purpose of making a longer cord, if you had a 9-foot cord or something that was a little bit different than a 6-foot cord out of the base of the lamp. Also, you might have a need where I've got a lamp that's in my bathroom on a vanity that the outlet is right next to the lamp. And instead of having 6 foot of cord wrapped up and coiled up on top of the countertop, I like a short cord so that the plug is right below the lamp and that lamp doesn't get moved to other locations. And so that would be a special purpose where maybe I just need a short little cord on it. And there might be an application where you just need a short cord, and would be, again, the same way, to include a note with the project so that the judge would know how to judge that of why your cord is so short. And also think about some future needs. If you're going to use a lamp in a room and you think that in the future you may need to move it around, there may be a different need about the length of the cord. So, you know, like my cord on the lamp in the bathroom is very short, and I know I'm not going to move this anywhere else. And so that lamp has been there for many years, and I'm not worried about if I need another lamp in a location, I would go get a different lamp with a longer cord or rewire that lamp. So let's talk about the wiring of the Polarize plug. So on the Polarize plug, this is the plug that has a wider terminal on it, and I've got probably the most common plug that you can find in a Polarized plug is a Leviton plug. These are what's included in the kits, and the Polarized plug allows us to have a little bit added safety for the project. So the importance of that is the wide blade on your outlets and on your plug is going to be the neutral wire. We'll talk about that here in just a minute. And then that wire would also be the wire that we would connect to the outside screw shell of the light socket, so that if someone happen to touch that while they were changing the light bulb, or for some other reason there was a malfunction in the design of the lamp, that the person would not get shocked and would not be injured by that lamp by mistake if that was wired correctly. Our plug is also designated here again for using SPT1 or SPT2 wire, and we'll take both of them. Our plug actually has a built-in wire maze or a strain relief, so you don't have to tie an underwriter's knot in our plug. But if you did not have that special cord clamp or the strain relief in the plug, you would need to tie an underwriter's knot. And this is one that you do not need to tie a knot and have the strain relief. It's typically one or the other, so you never have to put both of those in there. One or the other would be feasible or acceptable for wiring up that plug and getting that strain relief installed. Our plug is also designed for the size of wire that we're using, so we've got an 18 gauge wire, and that will work on this plug. And there's also a strip guide that is included in here that shows you how much insulation to remove on your wire. But I'm going to show you a couple little tricks that's going to make it a lot easier to wire, and it will give us a nice finished look, and our judges will look at that, and you'll be way ahead of everybody else with doing this process by not fighting, trying to get the exact length of wire underneath that screw head. So let's start there, and you can get out your supplies, and we're going to work on wiring the polarized plug. And so as you see here in this picture, we ask that we strip about 1 3/4 inches of the lamp cord. You can just start splitting that a little bit, and then it will pull apart using your fingers, or you can run a knife blade down the center of that. Just make sure if you're cutting on your countertop there that you have some kind of protective notebook or board or something that you're cutting on, that you're not cutting into your nice tabletop as you split that cord. And just let me know when you're done there, and we'll.
You need to. Anything else? You need to just cut more wire off, but you're good. Pull it off.
Good.
Make sure you cut down on that corner here. Then I'll cut your hand.
And this measurement's just approximate, so that kind of gets us started here. We can always take a little bit more and open up the cord if we need to.
See it. Should be able to see as easy as pull that right off. Around there, find what gauge it is or roughly what.
16.
You just twist it like this.
Okay, were you able to split your cord there and get that started?
The first one is coming off.
Okay, so you're removing the insulation now.
Yes.
Okay, so we need to remove about 1 inch of the insulation.
Don't worry about it. You can cut the wire if you need to. Just use it to pull that back.
I just have to cut this part.
No, you don't.
Yeah, I do. Because it's thicker than the other parts.
You can just use this to turn the bib. Don't use that because I'll just stall it. Those are horrible to use.
Yeah.
Those aren't wire cut.
Got him anyway.
And when you're removing the outer insulation, make sure to look in the end of that insulation when you pull that off. There shouldn't be any copper conductors that come out with that. If you do have copper conductors, you probably want to cut that off and restrip that again. But those little copper conductors, there's a certain number of those, and each one of those that we remove actually reduces the current carrying capability of the wire. So we don't want to lose any of the conductor size by removing that insulation. And are you using wire strippers to remove the outer insulation, or are you using a knife?
Wire strippers.
Okay. So I find the best way to use
Squeeze
wire
around that.
is to squeeze down and cut the insulation and then release the pressure on the jaws just a little bit. And then you can use the tool to help remove the insulation without dragging the tool along the copper conductor. And hopefully you've got a really sharp pair of wire strippers. I find that these small ones here, if you look, I've got a pair that the wire strippers like these seem to have a pretty nice jaw with a hole sizes sized properly.
Not the best.
Do you make your cut there? Okay.
Yeah.
You can always adjust if you need to. Here, let me size it up.
I found it's blue.
You should just use the wire strippers right for that instead of cutting them like that.
It's fine.
Okay.
The lightest spot.
Keep your hand away from that. Let me see that for a second, dude. I'll just reach in my here.
Hold up your wire strippers there and let me see what kind of wire strippers you're using. Okay, those are going to be a little bit difficult because of the hole sizes aren't going to be sized properly. And when you close the jaws all the way, you'll see that there's a big gap in the center where there's a split down the middle that they don't match up very well. You may be better off to use a small utility knife.
That's good.
Like one of these snap blade knives like that. I don't know if you happen to have one, or a pocket knife that's really sharp.
It came off anyway.
Okay. If you do use a knife, just be very careful not to cut into your fingers.
Make sure you're even. See how much you're off there? Cut it too far back.
It doesn't matter that much.
Kind of like me go with me. Well, you've already got it even here. You should have cut it right here for the evenness, right?
Then I'll redo it.
Well, then redo it later. Just get through the thing that I have here.
Okay, I'll go to the next slide here. And you do want the insulation removed evenly across the two wires so that they do match up. So when you get that done, we also want to twist the individual bare conductor wires on each of the strands and twist them in a clockwise direction. So when you're looking at the end of the wire, twist it in the clockwise direction.
Let me see that to make that even. You can just trim off the.
I think I need to use a knife.
Then use a knife. You just trim those wires on.
And when the judge looks at the wires in the plug, they will look right here at this area right there around the end of the wire and the insulation, and they will look to see if there's any strands that are cut off down in there. So when they look down in the plug, they can see that.
So now you're even. Ready to go.
I'm good.
Don't have.
I'm ready to go.
Okay. So we will go on then.
Clockwise, not counterclockwise.
There's some strands they got put out, so I need to put them all into the bunch again.
Okay. So now we can open up our plug, and we call this a clamshell style plug, where everything is all connected together and it just opens up and both sides will fold down so you can access the terminals there. Okay. And you'll have to loosen up the screws, and the screws on this style plug are color coded. So we've got a silver screw and we've got a gold screw. So the silver screw there in the plug is the neutral wire, and the gold screw is the hot wire. And they're captive, so when you back them out, you'll come to a point when they kind of get tough, and they're a little bit harder resistance, and you don't want to force the screw out beyond that point. And so leave that in there, but that'll be the point where you can back the screws up to that point where they get a little bit tough to unscrew. Okay, let's talk about the type of cord, or the cord itself here. So on the cord, we've got two different conductors there, and they're actually marked so that we know which one is which. So you'll find that one has a smooth jacket on it, and you can see over here on the right-hand side, this is the smooth jacket side, and then the other side has got a ribbed on it. It's got raised ribs, and it will have some kind of marking on the neutral wire here so that we know which one that is. So as I said, the neutral wire is going to be the one that's got the marking on it. It's the ribbed wire here on our parallel cord. And the smooth wire is going to be the positive wire. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the neutral wire, the ribbed wire, and wrap it around the silver screw. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the long pigtail of that wire and use that to hold on to be able to route that around each of the screws that we're going to put that on. Now the insulation should go up to the screw head, but not underneath of it. And then let me give you a better picture so you can see here our next step. And you can see there the insulation's up to the screw head there. And then we're going to put that around there and hold that in place while we tighten down that screw and get everything put on. And then I would suggest that you do the hot wire, the the smooth wire to the gold screw. And then once you get that done, we can come back and use your electronic nippers to come in here and trim up the wire flush with the bottom of that terminal there so that it looks nice and finished. Okay, so that will give you that opportunity to use that long pigtail to kind of pull it around the screw, hold it in place with your hand. And let me go back to the picture there of how I hold that with one hand. And I kind of have the clamshell folded up into the back of my hand there. My two fingers are squeezing on that wire out in the front to squeeze that around the screw. And then I'm tightening the screw down. So see if you can wrap your wire around the neutral, the ribbed wire around the silver screw, and the smooth wire around the gold screw.
The kit we got doesn't have that part to it. it's only got a regular plug, and it's, the only thing he has is the wires and strip for the actual piece right here that has to wire it. So I mean, it's we don't have this other part of the project you're talking about.
Okay, let me hold up your plug so I can see it. Oh, okay, so you've got a molded plug on yours. Okay, so what you'll want to do is, our 4-H project does not allow a molded plug on the cords, but you can use the cord in the rest of the lamp kit. And what you have to do is just cut off the end of that cord, the plug on it, and then you can install your own plug on it.
Okay.
A lot of 4-Hers will actually bring their kit or their lamp to the fair, and they'll have that plug installed on there like that, the molded plug, and they get marked down a ribbon. And some people are fine with that, but if you want to try to get the best ribbon that you can, you probably want to just cut that off, and we can get style plug that you can wire up on there. Like
when we receive it, we'll go ahead and follow your video here and go. We'll do the rest of the project here, so you can get the experience in doing it.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, that'd be great. So this will be a good time to come back and watch this video, and you can see then how to wrap that around the screw, and then trim off with the nippers here the extra wire, and then when you finish up, you'll get this nice finished connection there on the plug. Okay. Now we'll talk about the rest of the lamp here. So can you hold up your lamp so I can see what your lamp looks like? Okay, so it looks like, yeah, I can't see it very well, but it looks like maybe a taller base. Is there something that the base screws into, or is it just stand there?
Screws in, like it screws into this.
Okay. So on the
after
end,
the wires go.
Is there a little threaded rod like this on the bottom of it where the wire is going through?
So there is a little threaded rod already.
Okay. And you have any grommets there or bushings in your kit? And they look like this right here, these grommets and bushings. And one of them is going to be this bushing that screws around the end, and your lamp may already have one installed on it, so you may be able to.
Yes, it already does have one.
Okay, so you've got the grommet on the end of the tube. That's great. Okay. And here's another option. Some of the kits also have, or some of the lamps have, a small internal bushing here. And this internal bushing is only allowed to be used with the SPT1 cord. It's a little bit too tight to get SPT2 through there. So if you do have an internal one, that would be that fitting right there that you're looking at. Okay, now the wiring of the socket is just as easy as wiring the plug here, and we'll talk about doing that. Now, one of the things that we do need for the lamp is to have some kind of strain relief where the cord exits the lamp. That can either be in the screw shell up here at the light socket, or it can be down in the base, however the lamp is designed. If there's something that the cord clamp or cord strain relief can be installed that would hit before it would be pulled out of the lamp, that would work in those cases. So here's the way to think about putting on the screw shell up here for the light socket. And one of the things that you probably want to put on first is to put on the harp. And yours may already have a harp saddle on it. I didn't see.
Oh, I bought one. But
okay, so you've got the harp and the saddle there. So you'll want to put that on before you screw on the light socket, because the light socket will thread down and hold that in place. And some of them have a little nut down here that you may need to be able to tighten up first to hold that on there very tight. Now we're going to talk about putting an underwriter's knot in there, and we'll talk about it then when you put on your light socket there. You'll do this up in the bottom of your screw shell of your light socket there, so that the cord has a strain relief and the wires won't be jerked out of the electrical connections if somebody happens to trip on the lamp cord, or the lamp falls off and yanks on the cord or something like that. So the very first process that you can do, and you've already stripped one end, so you can work on the one end that you've already split, or you can split the other end and do it on the opposite end. But what we're going to do is we're going to, and I call it making the bunny ears. So the very first step is to make one bunny ear and bring the wire towards you in front of the vertical wire here. So bring that around and bring it to the front. Our second step is to bring another bunny ear and go the opposite direction and go behind it. So you're gonna have one wire in front and one wire behind the main wire that's standing up vertical there. And then you're going to poke the ends of the wire through each of the ears and work that little knot tight, okay? So that's what you're gonna do once you get that inside of the light socket. So you can practice before you put it in the light socket and see how to do it. And it's kind of a little pretzel where the ends of the wires come through the little loops and each of the wires go on opposite sides of the vertical cord there. And let me know if you have any problems making that underwriter's knot. It's a little bit different than a regular knot because if we just took the two wires and try to tie them together, it would kind of make a big knot there and wouldn't be very easy to fit inside of our electrical connections and in the light socket or wherever we need to have that underwriter's knot. So this will make it a little bit easier, a little bit more space to work with that. And when you get your little underwriter's knot, if you want to show me that, I can take a look at that.
Someone's got it.
Okay, it looks like, let's see there. You've got one of the wires in the wrong location there. So let me share my picture again and have you, and I can do one here if I need to do one in person again.
Take it apart. I think it's
So here we've got the okay, so I take my first wire here. Can you see? I know it's kind of a little bit hard maybe to see. And I make a loop and I come towards me and I bring it down and it's on the front of the wire. And I take my second one and I make a loop and I go down and I do it on the back side of the wire, okay? So right now I end up with two little loops and I've got one wire on the front and one wire on the back of the vertical wire.
okay. You're doing it right here. No. Bring it through this. There you go. One far in the front, one far in the back. I think you got it, Sean.
Okay. And then let me take a look at yours again. Yes, that's it. Okay. So that's going to be how you do the underwriters, not for the end of the lamp socket. So that's great. Okay. Make those two ears and then poke the ends through the wire. All right. Now, what you're going to have to do on your lamp is you're going to need to run your wire all the way up through from the base all the way up to the top and install your light socket on there, and make sure to put your saddle of your harp underneath the lamp socket so that when you tighten that down, it has a nice sturdy tight connection there. Okay. And I'm going to let you work on that. And we're about to the end of our time limit here for our first session. So I'm going to end our video here, and then we'll rejoin with part 2. So you should have that link in your email so that you can rejoin me here with the second version here, and we'll continue on at that point. Okay? We'll see you in just a minute.
All right, see you in a minute.